In a bustling city full of life, our story is about to begin under a sunny sky. Inside a tavern amid the chatter of customers, our protagonist Qian Wai enters accompanied by two men. Before they even need to look around, a familiar voice calls the group over to sit at one of the tables. One of the men reunites with a merchant friend who looks exhausted after a long business trip to Namen. Having just returned, the merchant asks if anything interesting happened in the Central Plains while he was away. He explains that information is money, but his friend says nothing special has happened recently. However, the man remembers a rumor about the youngest daughter of the Tang clan entering the world of Miram. The young woman is named Tang Wai, and according to the rumors, her martial skills are incredible, and she is also very beautiful. On top of that, the stories going around say she was born with a rare poison spirit constitution. The merchant is shocked by the news, but his friend admits it is only a rumor, and he does not know if it is true. He says that if it is true, anyone who dares attack her will be in serious trouble, despite the Tang clan's many enemies. Sitting at another table, the protagonist listens closely to the conversation and sets his utensils aside. Qian Wai compliments the local dumplings and orders some to go before getting up to leave. With the food in hand, he leaves the tavern and walks into the city's busy streets. From inside, two men watch Qian Wai walk away with serious, suspicious expressions. The scene shifts to a beautiful mountain landscape, showing that the young warrior has begun his journey. Qian Wai reflects on the rumors about Tang Wai, confirming her identity but noting that two things need correcting. The first is that, contrary to what people believe, she is not traveling alone because secret guardians are protecting her. And the second correction, according to him, is that despite having the poison spirit constitution, her combat ability is not remarkable yet. He knows all of this for a very specific reason as he approaches the entrance of a dark cave. Because inside, tied up and gagged, is Tang Wai herself, the youngest daughter of the Tang clan. The young woman struggles with a furious and desperate expression, trying in vain to free herself from her restraints. Qian Wai then reveals the shocking truth: he was the one who kidnapped Tang Wai the previous day. The story then goes back to the past, beneath the light of a full moon on a dark and silent night. Back then, Qian Wai was a feared figure who walked across a literal sea of blood. He was known by many terrifying names, including the Blood Wolf, or as others called him, the Sword Demon, a title he earned through his battles. It all began more than a decade ago, when he picked up a sword for the first time simply because he was hungry. Through self-training, he reached the peak of martial arts, becoming a merciless warrior feared by everyone. His destiny seemed to be living and dying as the Sword Demon, driven only by resentment and battle. That continued until a man calling himself the Heavenly Demon appeared, changing the world forever. This Heavenly Demon was like a natural disaster that swept across the Central Plains, wiping out everyone in his path. He became the greatest warrior of all time during an age of chaos, when everyone fought only to survive. And it was at the end of that road of chaos and survival that Qian Wai met Tang Wai, the Poison Mist Empress. She was the sole survivor of the Tang clan while he was a man with nothing, and the two quickly grew close. The connection between the lonely warrior and the last heir of a powerful clan became strong in very little time. One night, Empress Tang Wai questions him, asking whether he truly needs to leave for his mission. She explains that her clan's rule is to repay favors twice over and vengeance tenfold, so she must avenge her family. Qian Wai simply watches her in silence, understanding the determination and duty she carries. She smiles, saying that the old one would have asked whether a family rule was more valuable than her life. Qian Wai explains that he knows she will not give up on her revenge, just because of his words. Tang Wai stares at him silently, taking in the intensity of their conversation. She then reveals that facing the Heavenly Demon is not only a matter of revenge for him. With his current abilities, he says he can save at least one person, and that person is her. Hearing that declaration, Tang Wai interrupts him and asks him to look directly at her. The warrior then gently moves the strand of hair covering the Empress's face. As he does, he reveals a large, old scar mark in the left side of her face. Beneath the moonlight, the two stare at each other in a moment of silence and deep vulnerability. Embarrassed by his gaze, she turns her face away and declares that she will go with him into battle anyway. Her eyes fill with determination, showing that her decision cannot be changed. She argues that he has no reason to risk his life, but Qian Wai reaffirms his belief that living is always better. However, he adds that a world without her is a place where he simply could not bear to live. Moved by his words, she listens as he promises that the two of them will definitely return alive. Suddenly, the tension breaks when she cannot hold back a laugh at the comparison he made. Even during such a serious moment, she says she thought she already knew him well, yet he still surprises her. Qian Wai agrees, saying that people change over time, both her and him. Because of that, Tang Wai suggests they will have to get to know each other again from the beginning. With a smile, she invites him to follow her, leaving the warrior confused about where they are going. She turns around with a calm expression and reveals that she is taking him to her room. The Empress explains that they have a lot to talk about, and that outside is not the proper place. The scene shifts inside her residence, a quiet and secluded place. Inside, Tang Wai remarks that despite the full moon, the clouds are thick in the sky. She says all the Tang clan's pavilions were burned down, but that gives them an opportunity to build new ones. He listens closely as she talks about the future and rebuilding her home. Then she makes a promise that they will watch the brightest moon in the world together from the new pavilions. Qian Hui smiles, accepting the promise and the future she imagines for them. However, that promise beneath the full moon was destined to be tragically broken. During the battle against the heavenly demon, a fatal strike pierces Qian Hui's chest. The enemy's merciless attack hits not only him but Empress Tang So as well. Even in the middle of the chaos, the warrior looks at his beloved and promises they will fulfill what they said. But it is already too late, as Tang So has also been severely wounded during the confrontation. Despite her fatal wound, she manages to smile at him one last time before succumbing. Seeing the woman he loved fall, Qian Wai is completely consumed by overwhelming rage. Consumed by hatred, he charges at the heavenly demon, shouting that he will finish him. The heavenly demon merely watches Qian Hui's desperate attack with a cold expression. However, his opponent's power is absolute, and the warrior is easily defeated and thrown to the ground. Lying in a pool of blood, Qian Hui finds himself completely powerless before his enemy. None of his attacks, nor the promise they made, could overcome the heavenly demon's overwhelming power. As his consciousness fades, he realizes that he is dying amid the karma he created. His final moments are filled with regret as he wonders whether they could have won if they had been stronger. But instead of darkness, Qian Hui suddenly wakes up, gasping and coughing up water. To his surprise, he is not dead but alive inside a river, with no idea what happened. He touches his chest and realizes his body is completely healed, without a single wound. Confused, the young man looks at his hands, desperately trying to understand the situation. He then remembers that, for unknown reasons, he regressed 20 years into the past. Using his knowledge of the future, he crushed the factions that had harmed him and accumulated a great fortune. And that brings him to the present, where he subdued the young Tang So and brought her to an isolated location. Qian Hui watches her with a serious expression, remembering everything they experienced together in their previous life. Young Tang So meanwhile, is tied up and gagged, staring at him suspiciously. He notices that she looks very different from how he remembers her, since this is her younger self. Faced with the girl's muffled complaints and struggling, Qian Hui simply sighs and decides to free her so they can talk. Without much ceremony, he approaches and removes the gag preventing her from speaking. He warns her that they are in an isolated cave and that she should not even think about escaping because he sealed her pressure points. Tang So stares at him silently, visibly irritated by the way she is being treated. She then asks what his goal is, reminding him how dangerous it is to make an enemy of the Tang clan. He says he already knows the clan's motto and speaks casually to her, making her even more furious. She accuses him of being an old master who became young again just to satisfy some strange hobby of being disrespected by girls. The young woman continues, saying his real goal must be her body since he has been staring at her the entire time. Tired of hearing so many ridiculous accusations, Qian Hui simply puts the gag back on her. With the girl finally quiet, he sarcastically asks whether she is always this talkative. He then explains that he is only 15 years old and that he kidnapped her to protect her, not to hurt her. Tang So is completely stunned after hearing an explanation she never expected. She asks who he is trying to protect her from, but Qian Hui admits he does not know the details. The girl finds the idea absurd and asks who would dare attack a direct descendant of the Tang clan. Qian Hui says she does not need to believe him now, but she will understand with time, and for now, she should follow him. Tang So watches him silently, still suspicious but perhaps considering his words. In his thoughts, Qian Hui remembers that around this time, she was ambushed and half of her face was disfigured. However, the young woman seems to reach her own conclusions and gives a subtle, confident smile. She thinks she is not naive, and if he wants her alive, she will find an opening to escape. Seeing her expression, Qian Hui remembers how stubborn the woman he loved was in her youth. Tang So continues thinking that he will regret trying anything, because attacking a woman of the Tang clan is dangerous. Qian Hui says he will not stop her from escaping, but asks whether she could escape from him a second time. His words provoke her, and irritated, she demands to know what he meant by that. He challenges her to try breaking the pressure point seal placed on her, and the young woman immediately accepts. With a determined expression, she focuses all her energy on trying to free herself from the seal. But no matter how hard she tries, her body does not respond and she remains completely immobilized. Exhausted and frustrated, she gives up and awkwardly asks him to wait a minute. He asks whether things did not go the way she wanted, and the embarrassed girl admits they did not. She then asks him to undo the seal, but Qian Hui questions why he would help someone who plans to escape. With no answer and completely humiliated, Tang So can only lower her head. Embarrassed, Tang So tries to change the subject and shyly asks where she can go to the bathroom. Qian Hui simply stares at her with an expression showing he is not interested in her problems at all. The scene then transitions outside the cave, showing daylight filtering through the trees. Near the cave entrance is a beautiful landscape with a small waterfall flowing into a river. Qian Hui waits patiently at the entrance while Tang So takes care of her needs in the forest. Back inside the cave, he awkwardly asks what he is supposed to do with the pot she used. After a moment, he simply tells her to leave it there because he will take care of it himself. The young man then reflects that their first impression of each other in this new life has already passed the point of no return. A short while later, Tang So's stomach growls and she announces that she is getting very hungry. Qian Hui glances at her from the side, listening to her complaint without showing any immediate reaction. The two remain sitting silently in the cave, each in a separate corner, waiting for a solution. He then offers her some fasting pills, but she gets angry and shouts that those are not real food. She complains that he used to bring bread, but now they do not even have porridge to eat. Faced with the girl's outburst, the protagonist simply watches her with a serious and unwavering expression. He then reminds her of the moment he captured her, making her realize he knows this is a kidnapping. He asks how she thinks he managed to resist her poison techniques when he subdued her. She assumed it was the resistance of an old master, but he reminds her that he is 15, so she suggests anti-poison wine. The young man asks whether she knows how much the drink costs, and she calculates that 5 bottles would cost 1 silver bar. Hearing that, Tang So-wol begins connecting the dots and realizes something strange about the situation. With a shocked expression, she begins to understand the real reason they have no food. Qian Hui looks away, sweating slightly, as though embarrassed by the truth he is about to reveal. He finally admits bluntly that the reason they have no food is because he ran out of money. To prove his point, he tosses a completely empty coin pouch onto the ground. She asks how much he had to begin with, and Qian Hui answers that he had 4 silver bars. When asked how much he spent on the anti-poison wine, he reveals that he used 2 silver bars. The girl realizes how terrible his planning was, since he intended to stay for a month but spent everything in 2 weeks. Shocked by his complete lack of common sense, she cannot hold back and shouts, asking whether he is an idiot. She accuses him of never learning basic spending habits, but he responds that there is always a way. Tired of the conversation, she offers her own money, and Qian Hui replies that she should have offered sooner. His reaction leaves her slightly surprised, unable to tell whether he is serious or joking. When he asks where the money is, she explains it is in a pouch and asks him to free her arm. But Qian Hui tells her to forget it and decides he will get the money himself, sending her into a panic. He moves very close to her until they are face to face, leaving the young woman completely flustered by the situation. The boy begins searching for the pouch on her back, complaining that her hidden weapons are getting in the way. Extremely embarrassed, she tells him the pouch is on the back on the right side. Tang So-wol squeezes her eyes shut, completely mortified by having a boy search her back. Sweating and visibly nervous, she asks him to find the money as quickly as possible. Finally, Qian Hui manages to locate and pull out her small, elegant money pouch. He steps away and remarks that the wealth of the 5 great families is even greater than he imagined. Still recovering, she calls him an old perverted demon, but he simply says that is not true. With the money in hand, Qian Hui says he is going to the village and asks if she needs anything, acting as though the money belongs to him. She asks for bedding for the hard floor and a clean change of clothes so she does not have to wear the same outfit all the time. The young woman says food is the most important thing, but complains that the bread he used to buy tasted terrible. She feels sorry for him, saying that eating nothing but fasting pills must have completely ruined his sense of taste. Irritated, he says she is far too demanding for someone who is kidnapped, but the girl begs for anything except that bread. A short while later, Qian Hui arrives at a busy nearby village to buy the necessary supplies. Wearing a hat to avoid being recognized, he walks through the streets while doing his shopping. He reflects that because he does not know the exact date of the attack on Tang So-wol, he needs to stay prepared. Because of that, he decided to keep her safe for at least 1 month, even knowing she would not trust him. Back at the cave, the young woman thinks that although she does not trust him, his eyes do not seem like those of someone with bad intentions. While eating, she asks whether he really knows a lot about her, and the boy confirms that he does. She then points out that unlike him, she knows absolutely nothing about her kidnapper. Cleverly, Tang So-wol suggests that it would only be fair for him to talk about himself so they could build trust. Her words send him deep into memories of his previous life with the woman he loved so much. He remembers her older self saying countless times that they needed to get to know each other better. In his thoughts, he acknowledges that the woman in his memories and the young woman before him are different people. However, even with that difference, he understands that deep down, she is still the same person. On his way back, Qian Hui walks through the forest, thinking about their complicated relationship. Along the way, he stops when he spots something familiar on a rocky slope that he had already expected to find. He approaches and picks a rare and beautiful purple flower, an item of great value. When he returns to the cave, he finds Tang So-wol waiting, unaware of what he has brought. When he offers her the flower, she becomes flustered, thinking it is a romantic gift, but he tells her to stop imagining things. He then reveals the plant's true name, the purple flower poison, purifying herb, leaving her shocked. She immediately recognizes the spiritual herb that doubles the potency of poison and asks where he found it. Qian Hui remembers that she was actually the one who found the flower in the future, but he already knew it existed. He simply says he was lucky enough to spot it on his way back, and the girl's eyes light up with excitement. The young man asks whether she can absorb it, and surprised, she asks how he knows about her poison spirit constitution. He replies that it is not a major secret, but few people know its true potential, and she decides to trust him. With a grateful gesture, she bows and accepts the precious herb he offers her. Without hesitation, Tang So-wol begins tasting the flower's essence to evaluate its quality and power. She seems to savor the plant, feeling the poisonous energy it gives off and how it strengthens her constitution. After analyzing its taste and potency, she takes a small bite from one of the petals. Once her analysis is complete, she looks at Qian Wai, ready to give her verdict on the rare herb. The young woman says its quality is exceptional and that it will take 1 month to absorb it completely. She explains that poison arts are not simple, and Qian Wai seems to agree with her explanation. Before starting, she reminds him that she cannot consume a spiritual herb on an empty stomach and asks for food. He then offers her the same bread as always, to the girl's complete disappointment, which she does not bother hiding. However, because she is hungry, she pretends otherwise and says she missed the bread, opening her mouth to be fed. And so Qian Wai begins feeding the young woman the bread she hated so much only moments earlier. As she eats, she reflects on how dangerous it is to use the herb without proper preparation, which is what injured her in the past. As Tang Wol prepares herself, Qian Wai thinks that during the months she will need to absorb the herb, he has something to do. However, in the middle of his thoughts, the hand holding his chopsticks suddenly stops moving. The young woman notices the sudden pause and looks at him, confused by his change in behavior. She asks why his hand stopped, but Qian Wai simply tells her to wait a moment. At that instant, he senses a presence rapidly approaching from outside the cave. With a serious expression, he gets up and moves toward the entrance, confirming his suspicions. He apologizes for interrupting the meal but says she needs to start absorbing the herb right now. The urgency in his tone makes it clear that the situation has become dangerous and there is no more time to waste. His intuition was right, because in the forest, a group of warriors is approaching the cave entrance. Their leader, a man with long white hair and a scar, realizes that the day he has been waiting for has finally arrived. From high on the mountain, the invaders observe the location of their targets, ready to attack. The group consists of several intimidating martial artists, all prepared for combat. Each of them carries a dangerous aura, making it clear that they are no ordinary opponents. Without hesitation, the warriors advance along the forest trail toward the cave where the pair is hiding. Outside, Qian Wai and unexpected ally wait for their enemies to arrive. Tang Wol seems slightly nervous about the situation while the protagonist remains calm and focused. She complains about having to absorb the herb now because using her arts could cause an adverse reaction. But he explains that the herb's effectiveness decreases over time and that there is no way to avoid the fight. The best option is for her to absorb the herb and use only her hidden weapons, even if she does not fully trust him. He reassures her, saying he has a plan and will make sure she gets home safely. A short while later, the enemies arrive at the clearing, and their leader slowly walks toward them. The white-haired man approaches with his subordinates, staring at Qian Wai with a serious expression. He says he has never seen the young man's face before, and that he does not appear to belong to the Tang clan. Qian Wai calmly replies that they did a good job finding them there. The leader reveals that a boy buying terrible, tasting bread for 2 people in the village raised suspicion. Hearing this, Tang Wol glares at him indignantly, while he simply says he thought it tasted good. The man then points at the young woman and says their business is with the Tang clan's daughter. He offers Qian Wai a chance to leave peacefully if he simply hands the girl over. The protagonist responds with firm silence, making it clear that he is not going anywhere. The leader understands his refusal and accepts that the silent answer means there will be a confrontation. He then asks whether Qian Wai has ever heard the title 100 Slaughter Swordsman, but the young man says no. The man explains that it was the title of his late master, who was brutally eliminated by the Tang clan 20 years ago. Hearing the story, Tang Wol becomes visibly tense, understanding the enemy's motivation. The leader admits that his master was a villain who preyed on the weak, and that the Tang clan's punishment was justified. Qian Wai and the young woman listen carefully to the story, understanding the complicated history behind his revenge. He looks toward the sky with fury in his eyes and declares that despite everything, that man was still his master. He explains that he was an orphan and that his master was the only family he ever had, teaching him everything he knew. However, moments before the Tang clan's attack, his master gagged him and cut his eye with a blade. That allowed him to pretend to be an innocent victim, begging for his life at the feet of his master's killers. He understands that it was all a cruel but effective plan to make sure his disciple could survive. The 100 Slaughter Swordsman reveals that all of his men also hold deep grudges against the Tang clan. He says resentment and hostility are bonds that can never be broken, and that Qian Wai should understand that. The young man and Tang Wol listen to the declaration with serious expressions, understanding the gravity of the situation. In his thoughts, Qian Wai agrees because he knows very well that humans cannot escape the chains of revenge. He reflects that there are no absolute villains or heroes, and that grudges spread like a spider web. Clenching his fist, the young man remembers the consequences of living inside an endless cycle of hatred. He knows perfectly well what waits at the end of that road, a world consumed by resentment. His expression becomes even more determined as he remembers everything he has already experienced because of revenge. The leader tells him to step aside, but Qian Wai refuses, saying he does not want to create more people like himself. Without another word, the protagonist draws his sword, showing that his decision has been made. In a surprising move, he cuts his own hand, allowing his blood to run down the blade of his sword. A dark and sinister aura emanates from his body, spreading across the ground like a threatening shadow. The swordsman's mercenaries are visibly shocked and confused by the boy's strange technique. Their shock quickly turns to fear as they begin to feel the power of that dark aura. From their perspective, Qian Wai transforms into a demonic figure surrounded by oppressive darkness. Unable to withstand the crushing pressure, two of the men simply pass out and collapse to the ground. The group's leader is shocked, unable to understand what is happening to his subordinates. Beside him, Tang So-wol watches her protector's display of power with a mixture of surprise and concern. With red eyes, Qian Wai declares that if revenge is destiny, he will face it with his own determination. He then crushes two small spheres he prepared, releasing their contents into the air. The spheres explode and create an enormous cloud of white smoke that completely blinds the enemies. One of the men shouts desperately, warning everyone to cover their faces because he thinks the smoke is poisonous. However, the experienced leader immediately realizes that it is not poison, but something else. From inside the smoke, dozens of needles and hidden weapons are fired at high speed toward the mercenaries. Caught off guard by the strategy, several of the men are struck directly by the projectiles. The leader shouts that it is only a smokescreen and that the real attack is the hidden weapons. One of the men underestimates the attack, but quickly realizes he has made a fatal mistake. Before he can react, he feels a violent impact and realizes that he has been severely wounded. Qian Wai emerges from the smoke like a ghost and drives his sword through the mercenary's chest. The man lets out an agonized cry as he is eliminated by the young man's surprise attack. Without giving the others time to react, Qian Wai quickly charges toward his next target. With impressive speed, he cuts down his enemies one by one amid the chaos of the smoke. His eyes glow red, showing his complete focus and coldness during the fight. Furious at seeing his men defeated, the 100 Slaughtered swordsman releases all of his energy. He charges forward and manages to intercept Qian Wai, blocking his attack with a powerful sword strike. The leader then orders his remaining men to capture the girl while he deals with the protagonist. The final two mercenaries obey and prepare to advance on Tang So-wol. They rush toward the young woman, who is vulnerable while absorbing the poisonous herb. Qian Wai quickly pulls away from the leader, using the smoke to create distance and reposition himself. He appears in front of the two men with a black aura and red eyes, protecting the girl once again. The 100 Slaughtered swordsman observes Qian Wai's aura and says he is far from being a cultivator of the righteous path. He asks why someone with such dark energy would protect the Tang clan's daughter out of loyalty. Qian Wai replies that it is not out of loyalty and that the leader would not be able to understand his reasons anyway. The young man's confident response leaves the experienced warrior momentarily speechless and slightly surprised. Qian Wai's dark reddish aura intensifies, showing that he is not intimidated by his enemy. He declares that swordsmen speak with their blades, and if the leader still does not understand, he will be defeated. After the battle against the subordinates, Qian Hui's dark aura slowly fades away. He stands among the bodies of his enemies, waiting for the leader's next move. Tang So-wol, who watched everything, turns completely pale and is shocked by the scene she just witnessed. Qian Wai asks why she is surprised, and she replies that it would be impossible not to be frightened by that. He explains his technique is the Mad Wolf Life, taking art, which uses hostile intent to enhance his abilities. He reassures her that there is no risk, but she doubts him because she has never heard of controlling such intent. The boy says she can trust him because he passed the stage of controlling it a long time ago. His words seem to calm Tang So-wol slightly, and she looks at him from a new perspective. In her thoughts, she remembers how she has always had to fight alone to protect herself from her enemies. She has always been a skilled fighter, capable of handling herself even in difficult situations. Even though she is strong, the young woman of the Tang clan constantly faces dangers that demand everything from her. She reflects that judging by his energy, Qian Wai certainly has not lived a peaceful life until now. Tang So-wol decides that if he is truly risking so much to protect her, she will repay the favor twice over. With a determined expression, she focuses on her task and asks him to be careful during the fight. The 100 Slaughtered swordsman charges forward, and the young woman hopes she will not have to break her clan's rules. With his eyes glowing red, Qian Wai prepares for a direct confrontation with the leader. The two warriors' swords clash in a fast and brutal exchange of strikes. They stare intensely at each other, measuring one another's strength while their blades remain locked. In an instant, Qian Wai manages to push his opponent back, forcing him to retreat and defend himself. The leader leaps backward, landing on a tree branch to create distance and analyze his opponent. He admits that the young man's aura was inhuman, but that his skill level appears to be only first class. The 100 Slaughtered swordsman taunts Qian Wai, saying he must already be feeling the limits of his power. But the young man replies that level does not matter, because a sword through the heart has the same effect on everyone. The leader scoffs, doubting that Qian Wai even has the ability to reach him in a real fight. To prove his point, the older man's sword begins to become surrounded by powerful red energy. Qian Wai immediately recognizes the technique, identifying it as the famous saber Chuai. He knows that this is an ability that channels energy into the blade, used only by masters of the peak realm. However, without being shaken, he prepares himself and says he has already figured out his opponent's sword style. Qian Wai concentrates his own dark energy into his sword, preparing for a powerful counterattack. The leader charges with his red saber Q while the young man's dark energy crashes against it. The sound of metal echoes through the forest as the two powerful auras collide violently. In an unexpected move, Qian Hui dodges and manages to slash the swordsman's shoulder. The leader looks at his wound in complete disbelief, shocked that someone weaker managed to hit him. Before the enemy can recover, Qian Hui continues his attack with a quick downward slash. The swordsman blocks the strike, but the pressure of Qian Hui's attack is relentless. Wrapped in his dark aura, the young man continues attacking, moving like a predatory shadow. During the exchange, the leader manages to slash Qian Hui's shoulder, but he completely ignores it. Even with a new wound on his face, the young man keeps advancing without showing any sign of pain. Blood runs down his body, but he seems not to care, focusing only on defeating his opponent. The leader is baffled, wondering whether the boy is ignoring his wounds because he has gone mad with rage. However, when he looks more closely, he realizes something else is happening in the fight. He notices that despite appearing to attack blindly, Qian Hui is narrowly avoiding every fatal blow. The battle continues at a frantic pace, with the protagonist putting more and more pressure on his opponent. The experienced warrior is forced to retreat, surprised by the ferocity of a supposedly weaker opponent. He cannot understand how a first-class martial artist can fight with such intensity and power. The hunter becomes the hunted, and the swordsman wonders whether that young man's aura is truly human. Despite his shock, he still considers himself superior, prepares to show his true power. With a shout, he unleashes a massive strike, believing he can overpower the boy's strange technique. The leader thinks to himself that he has already adapted to that level of hostile intent and can win. He charges with all his strength, determined to end this unexpectedly difficult confrontation. The two swordsmen move across the battlefield, exchanging blows that echo through the forest. At that moment, Qian Hui's aura concentrates around his blade, becoming even denser and more powerful. Feeling the change in energy, the leader's eyes widen as he realizes something terrible is about to happen. Suddenly, his body freezes in place, and he realizes he can no longer move. Qian Hui's aura manifests as shadowy tendrils, completely restraining his enemy's body. Furious, the swordsman realizes that the intent he felt earlier was not his opponent's full power. Qian Hui coldly explains that fangs must remain hidden until the moment of the final strike. With his opponent immobilized, the young man prepares to deliver the last and decisive attack. Terrified, the leader warns him that someone with an aura like his will never have a peaceful death. Qian Hui approaches and drives his sword into the man's chest as he struggles in vain. The group's leader coughs up blood, his face twisted with a mixture of pain and disbelief. The young man then replies that he already knows because he himself has already died once. The scene then shifts to another part of the forest, where Tang deals with the remaining mercenaries. One of the men is struck and thrown backward by one of the Tang clan girls' attacks. Even while weakened, she manages to defend herself against the enemies, trying to take advantage of the situation. She realizes that she has used her final hidden weapon and wonders how many enemies are still left. As she tries to get up, her foot steps on a loose branch on the ground, causing her to lose her balance. With a surprised cry, she stumbles and begins falling toward the cliff. The young woman rolls down the slope, leaving herself completely exposed and vulnerable to the enemies. The two remaining mercenaries see the perfect opportunity and shout that they should attack and eliminate her. Tang tries to recover from the fall, but her opponents are already rapidly closing in. She looks up in terror, realizing she will not have enough time to defend herself. The two men leap toward her with their weapons in hand, ready to finish everything. Helpless, the girl simply closes her eyes, waiting for the impact that seems inevitable. Trapped with no way out, Tang apologizes to Qian Hui in her thoughts and decides to use her poison arts. But before she has to risk her life, a projectile from above strikes one of the mercenaries directly. The man falls to the ground defeated, while his partner looks back, completely shocked by the surprise attack. Tang looks up and can barely believe what she sees, feeling a wave of relief. It is Qian Hui, who has finished his fight and is now leaping from the cliff to protect her once again. With impressive speed, the young man lands and charges toward the final remaining mercenary. The man tries to react, but it is already too late to escape the protagonist's fast and precise attack. With a single movement, Qian Wai eliminates him with a clean slash, putting an end to the immediate threat. Blood splashes across his face, but his red eyes remain cold and focused, showing his determination. In the blink of an eye, the young man shows his superiority by quickly defeating the remaining enemies. The men who tried to attack the girl fall one by one, unable to even react to his speed. With the battle finally over, Qian Hui draws a line on the ground with his sword. He turns toward the few enemies still remaining, standing among the bodies of their companions. With a threatening look, he warns them that if they cross that line, they will die. The surviving mercenaries freeze in fear, without the courage to take a single step. Qian Hui then steps forward, crossing the very line he drew on the ground. He coldly declares that actually, even if they do not cross the line, they are still going to die. Meanwhile, in a forest not far away, a new figure appears. An older man runs desperately through the trees, great concern visible on his face. He appears to be searching for someone, moving with impressive speed for his age. In his thoughts, he prays that the person he is searching for, is safe and unharmed. He remembers his youngest daughter and how desperate he became after learning she had been kidnapped. Through the beggar's sect, he discovered that she was in the mountains near Yujiang village, a dangerous location. He knew that if the kidnapper's goal was retaliation against the Tang clan, His daughter was in great danger. Suddenly, the man stops running, his heart beating harder as he senses something in the air. He detects a strong smell of blood and realizes in horror that the confrontation must have already begun. As he gets closer, he finds the aftermath of a battle, with several bodies scattered across the ground. The trail of destruction continues, showing that an intense and violent fight took place there. He notices that although some bodies have marks from hidden weapons, most were defeated by a sword. With an attentive gaze, he continues advancing through the forest, trying to understand what happened. His speed increases as his urgency and fear grow with every step. Finally, he reaches a clearing and comes across a scene that leaves him speechless. The man stops, staring at the figure of a young man standing among dozens of bodies. He sees Qian Wai from behind, still surrounded by a faint dark aura after the battle. So Wol's father senses the boy's hostile intent and realizes that he was responsible for the sword wounds. Sensing the newcomer's presence, Qian Wai slowly turns to face him. The older man then questions him, demanding to know exactly what happened there. In response, Qian Wai's aura expands and restrains the man's body in an instant. The shadowy tendrils completely immobilize him, just as they did with the mercenary leader. Not recognizing him, the young man stares at Tang So, Wol's father, with red eyes, ready to attack. However, the aura breaks apart around the older man, who remains completely unharmed and calm. He says Qian Wai is blinded by rage and that attacking an opponent before evaluate him is not wise. With a simple movement, Tang So, Wol's father, releases his own energy and completely breaks the restraining technique. Free from the shadows, he demands that the young man explain what happened there, while Qian Wai simply stares at him. At that moment, Tang So, Wol shouts from a distance, asking the young hero to stop the confrontation. Hearing his daughter's voice, the master leaps away from the battlefield and moves closer to where she is. Seeing that she is safe, he is visibly relieved, though still confused by the entire situation. After pushing his technique to its limit, Qian Wai becomes completely exhausted and can barely remain standing. The extreme effort takes its toll, and the young man loses consciousness as his body staggers backward. Tang So, Wol runs over and manages to catch him before he falls to the ground, holding him in her arms. She holds him tightly, worried about his condition after the intense battle he fought to protect her. The young woman looks at the unconscious boy's face, her heart filled with concern and a little admiration. Only then does she finally turn and recognize the man who arrived, timidly calling him father. The man calls her by name So Wol, his face showing the immense relief of finally finding her. He asks what is going on, and she asks him to wait while she tries to wake the young hero. In a weak voice, Qian Wai replies that he can see her and asks her to stop shouting in his ear. So Wol explains that he defeated all the enemies by himself, fighting in a way that completely disregarded his own life. Her father is shocked to hear that a single boy managed to eliminate an entire group of mercenaries. In disbelief, he wonders how the young man managed to control such pure hostile intent and then simply pass out. Seeing that he is alright, a small and sincere smile appears on Tang So, Wol's face. She then reminds him of the promise they made, that he would tell her his name once they were safe. The young woman says it was frustrating not knowing his name, and that after everything that happened, he cannot hide it anymore. Qian Wai slowly opens his eyes, looking at the girl who saved him, and is now waiting for his answer. He finally keeps his promise and reveals his name, telling her that he is Qian Wai. The scene transitions into a memory, showing a field of flowers beneath a bright blue sky. In the field, the younger Qian Wai rests his head on the lap of a white-haired woman, Tang So, Wol, from his previous life. He remembers a dark time when surviving the heavenly demon's attack was the only priority. Back then, everyone was blinded by hatred, and he wonders how long it has been since he last saw a blue sky. In his thoughts, the young man reflects on how long it has been since he felt the simple warmth of sunlight on his skin. Qian Wai finally wakes up, but this time he is lying in a comfortable bed with his entire body wrapped in bandages. Confused and disoriented, he looks around the luxurious room and wonders where he is. He then hears a sliding door opening, and a familiar figure enters the room. It is Tang So, Wol, who approaches the doorway with a calm expression and a slight smile. She greets him, calling him by name for the first time, and asks whether young hero Qian is awake. He sits up in bed, observing his surroundings and trying to process everything that happened after the battle. When he tries to get up, Tang So, Wol rushes over and stops him, warning that his wounds could reopen. She insists that he rest, but Qian Wai replies that staying still does not suit his nature. He then asks where they are, and the young woman responds with a playful and mysterious smile. With a radiant smile, she welcomes him to the main estate of the Sichuan Tang clan. The view pulls back, revealing the massive and majestic Tang clan fortress, a place of great power and influence. Qian Wai looks over with a surprised expression as Tang So, Wol speaks to him. He calmly processes the information, noting that they both managed to make it back safely. In response, Tang So, Wol gives him a gentle and reassuring smile. She then moves to sit in a chair beside his bed to continue their conversation. He remarks that his body will now have even more scars, but she replies that scars are a warrior's badge of honor. Tang So, Wol then apologizes, saying that if her skills were better, he would not have been so badly injured. Qian Wai listens to her apology with a neutral expression, not saying a word. The young woman looks down, appearing to feel genuinely guilty for what happened. Before she can say more, Qian Wai suddenly reaches out his hand toward her face. He gently touches her cheek, causing her to look up at him in surprise. The young man then points out that in the end, she ended up with a wound as well. Tang So-wol is visibly flustered, realizing he had noticed the small cut on her cheek. She quickly insists that she just tripped, telling him there is no need to feel guilty about it. Qian seems to accept her clumsy excuse, saying he supposes everything turned out fine then. The young woman breathes a subtle sigh of relief, glad that he bought her story. Her relief quick gives way to a series of nervous and awkward laughs. Trying to change the subject, she points out that their positions have now been completely reversed. She explains that he is now practically the one who has been kidnapped, since he is a guest in her clan's territory. She jokingly declares that she will show him how the Tang clan treats its benefactors, making him regret his old cave life. Qian Hui just sits and listens, looking completely unconvinced by her bizarre logic. He asks if she misunderstands the meaning of kidnapping, but she tells him to just ignore the details. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted by a knock on the door and a voice calling for Lady So-wol. The person on the other side of the door announces that the family head has arrived. The large sliding doors begin to open, revealing the important visitor. A dignified and imposing man with a neatly trimmed goatee enters the room. The man says he came to check on Qian Hui's condition and asks how he is feeling. The young warrior's eye widens in recognition as he looks at the powerful figure before him. This is Tang Jin Qian, the lord of the Sichuan Tang clan, also known as the Poison King. Qian Hui thanks him, but the lord explains they did very little since his meridians were completely unharmed. He adds that even the cuts were already healing upon his arrival, and he's relieved the damage was not worse. Tang Jin Qian says Qian Wei should thank his daughter, who has been nursing him nonstop, much to her embarrassment. He tells the young warrior to focus on recovery, stating they will speak formally in a month when he is healed. As he advises So-wol to rest too, she becomes flustered and starts pushing him out of the room. After successfully forcing her father out, Tang So-wol firmly closes the door behind him. Qian Hui can't help but tease her, saying that after everything, he hardly knows where to look. From the hallway, her father overhears them and sternly tells Qian Wei to stop talking nonsense and lie down. Tang Jin Qian gives the closed door one last sharp look before finally turning to leave. The lord of the Tang clan then walks alone down the long, quiet corridor of the main estate. The scene shifts to an outside view of the grand and imposing Tang clan residence. Back in the room, Qian Hui gently takes Tang So-wol's hand as she looks back at him. After recovering, Qian Hai stands awkwardly in his new clothes next to a very cheerful Tang So-wol. The two sit down and continue their conversation, appearing much more familiar with each other now. Tang So-wol laughs brightly, clearly enjoying her time spent with the young warrior. Qian Hui watches her with a calm smile, seeming more relaxed in her company. Unseen by them, Lord Tang Jin Qian watches the two young people interacting from a distance. The scene transitions, indicating that the time for a more formal meeting has arrived. Dressed in fine black robes, Qian Wei looks a bit overwhelmed as he enters the main hall. A grand and luxurious feast is spread out before him, prepared for a very important occasion. As they sit down, Tang Jin Qian welcomes him, and Qian Wei credits his quick recovery to the Tang clan's medical skills. The lord tells him that Chef Jin put great effort into the meal and invites everyone to begin eating. Qian Wei is impressed by the food, remarking that they are delicacies he never saw in his past life. Seeing him have trouble with the fish, Tang So-wol offers her help, noting its many fine bones. However, her father interrupts her, deciding to demonstrate the proper technique himself. Tang Jin Qian then closes his eyes with a satisfied expression after showing off his skill. Changing the mood, he states that the Tang clan owes Qian Hui a great favor for his help. The clan lord formally thanks the young man for protecting his daughter, So-wol. Qian Hui calmly replies that he did not protect her without his own reasons. Tang Jin Qian declares that his clan repays debts tenfold and offers to grant any desire within his power. A small smile forms on Qian Hai's face as he prepares to give his answer. He explains that he only became a warrior to find food, and now he is eating better than he ever imagined. The young man claims he desires nothing more, but Tang Jin Qian asks if he truly has no other wish. After a moment of thought, Qian Hui puts down his chopsticks and admits there might be one more thing. He says his only wish is to continue sharing meals like this with someone in the future. Tang So-wol is visibly moved and surprised by his simple yet profound request. Her father takes a moment to process the young man's words before making a decision. He then turns to his daughter and calls her name to get her full attention. With absolute authority, Tang Jin Qian announces that she will become engaged to young Master Qian. Tang So-wol is completely stunned by her father's sudden declaration, unable to speak. A deep blush spreads across her face as she tries to understand what just happened. She panics and tells her father it is too sudden, then asks Qian Wei how he can keep eating so calmly. He explains that since Qian Wei wish to become family, a betrothal is the logical first step to observe him. The lord adds that the young man has the qualifications to make such a demand, but So-wol is still unsure. She argues that family may not have meant that, but Qian Hui asks if his intentions were not clear. He tells her that he wouldn't risk his life for someone he didn't care for and asks if she dislikes him. Flustered and put on the spot, Tang So-wol struggles to find an answer to his direct question. While she stammers that it's not it, Qian Hui simply continues eating his meal. Her father watches the two of them with a serious and thoughtful expression. He then tells his daughter that this proposal was not only for Qian Wei, but also for her own sake. Tang Qian reveals that she was born with poison spirit constitution, a talent that is also a curse. He gravely explains that as the poison Kai in her body deepens, she may eventually be unable to have children. Tang Wo is left completely speechless by her father's shocking revelation about her future. Qian remains quiet, observing the serious family discussion taking place beside him. Her father says he will not press the issue, but as a parent he cannot help but worry endlessly. She reassures him, promising that she will never regret or resent the precious body her parents gave her. Tang Qian is visibly moved to tears by his daughter's maturity and strength. Qian Wai observes the emotional moment between father and daughter with a knowing look. He then clears his throat, apologizing for ruining the mood, but says he has something to add. The young man confidently states that there is a solution to her problem with the poison spirit constitution. Both Tang Qian and his daughter are stunned, and the Lord asks Qian Wai to repeat what he just said. He explains that since her poison ki is too strong, they just need to restrict its flow with a specific oral formula. He recalls his past life where a future Tang Wol had to revive the clan after it was annihilated. Because of that immense responsibility, she conducted endless research and shared her findings with him. Qian Wai clearly remembers the solution that the future version of Wol had discovered back then. With the knowledge from his past life, he smiles faintly, ready to share the answer. After hearing the oral formula, Tang Qian is so shocked that he is left completely speechless. The Poison King breaks into a nervous sweat, unable to believe what the young man just told him. A heavy silence falls over the table as the Lord processes this impossible knowledge. After taking a moment to compose himself, Tang Qian begins to speak again. He reminds Qian Wai of his status as the Lord of the Tang clan, to which the boy simply replies, "I know." The Lord states he is a man of great power, especially concerning poisons and hidden weapons. Yet, he humbly admits that for all his power, there was so much he could not do for his own daughter. Tang Qian says he has incurred another great debt and has no idea how to repay him. Qian Wai dismisses the idea, saying he just passed along information and it shouldn't be considered a favor. He tells Wol that she can finally breathe a sigh of relief, thinking this is neither a favor nor a debt. The young woman smiles with genuine relief and happiness, feeling she has already received more than enough. The mood brightens as a great weight is lifted from the shoulders of the Tang family. With the meal now finished, Tang Qian decides to conclude the formal gathering for the day. However, he asks to speak privately with Qian Wai and tells his daughter to head inside first. Wol cheerfully waves goodbye to the young man before leaving the two of them alone. Now that they are alone, Tang Qian looks at Qian Wai with a serious expression. He says he knows it is impolite to pry but would like to ask a personal question out of curiosity. Qian Wai is surprised when the Lord asks him if he has any connection to the heavenly killing star. The unexpected and dangerous question hangs in the air between the two powerful men. The young warrior's expression immediately becomes serious as he understands the gravity of the inquiry. His mind repeats the infamous title he just heard, the heavenly killing star. Qian Wai knows exactly what Tang Qian is worried about when he brings up such a name. It is a disposition that grants talent rivaling the heavenly martial constitution but leaves one unable to control their murderous intent. Unlike the heavenly martial constitution, it has no known cure and is seen as a bloody destiny ordained by the heavens. After taking a sip of his drink, the young man prepares to answer the clan lord's question. Tang Qian clarifies that he is not accusing him but is merely concerned, and Qian Wai says he understands. Qian Wai clarifies the Lord's question, asking if he's being accused of learning the arts of the heavenly killing star. With a serious expression, Tang Qian confirms that is exactly what he is asking. He explains that Qian Ho's slaughterous aura is thicker than any he's ever felt, even from unorthodox faction masters. The Lord admits that while he was impressed by Qian Ho's control, the risk of it going astray cannot be taken lightly. The young man listens intently as Tang Qian lays out his concerns for the future. The Lord offers to teach him the Tang clan's internal energy arts if he agrees to abandon his current, dangerous techniques. Qian Wai silently considers the generous offer from the powerful Poison King. After a moment, he politely declines the offer to change his martial art, stating he will only accept the kind intention. He explains that he prefers to climb the mountain he built himself, rather than one built for him by others. He adds confidently that even if he stumbles, he will be fine as long as someone is by his side to support him. Tang Qian seems to understand his meaning and accepts his firm resolve. The Lord's curiosity gets the better of him, and he asks for a hint about the source of his knowledge, but Qian Wai remains vague. He accepts that the young man has his reasons for secrecy, and Qian Wai promises to tell him the full story one day. Deciding not to pry further, Tang Qian dismisses him, telling him to go and get some rest. As Qian Wai gets up to leave, he nonchalantly addresses the Lord as father-in-law. Tang Qian is visibly startled by the sudden use of the very familiar title. He closes his eyes and takes a deep breath, realizing he is not quite prepared to be called that yet. When he says his heart isn't ready, Qian Wai pretends he can't hear and repeats the title, much to the Lord's annoyance. The scene transitions to a wide shot of the beautiful and expansive Tang clan estate. The next morning, Tang Wol calls out for Qian Wai, telling him to get up because the sun is already high. A very groggy-looking Qian Wai appears at the door, having just been woken from his sleep. Wol complains that she got all dressed up just for a Fanchi to greet her with bleary, crusty eyes. The young man is taken aback by her sudden and very specific complaint. He teases her for accepting the engagement so meekly, but she fires back that he was the one who confessed his feelings first. Qian Wai bluntly replies that he accepts because he likes her, then asks why she is dressed so nicely. Completely flustered by his straightforwardness, the young woman is left speechless. She tells him she won't explain until he is properly ready and begins pushing him back into his room. Soon after, the two are seen on a rooftop, looking out over the town below the estate. Now properly dressed, Qian Wai accompanies Tang Wol through the bustling city streets. She excitedly announces the beginning of their official outing in the Sichuan province. Qian Wai notes her excitement, but admits that he is also looking forward to their date. She says that since he's becoming a matrilocal son-in-law, it is important for him to get to know his new home. The young man listens quietly, taking in the sights and sounds of the city around him. He realizes this is his first time seeing Sichuan intact, as the province had been burned to ashes by the heavenly demon in his past life. So Wol stops at a stall and cheerfully greets the vendor, calling him Uncle Jang Gak. The man asks why she returned from her journey so soon, and she vaguely replies that circumstances changed. Noticing Qian Wai, he asks who her companion is, and so Wol proudly introduces him as her fiancé. The vendor's eyes go wide with shock, his mind completely blown by the unexpected news. He practically jumps over his counter in disbelief, as so Wol urges her fiancé to greet the man. Without any change in his stoic expression, the young man simply introduces himself by name, Qian Wai. So Wol scolds Qian Wai for his lackluster greeting, while he calmly apologizes, stating he is not used to lowering his head. He asks if she is fine with the news spreading so quickly, and she confirms that was her exact intention. Seeing his reaction, Tang Wol playfully asks if she can guess what is on his mind. She accurately deduces that he is feeling insecure about being her fiancé when they are not even officially married yet. She sighs and tells him his low self-esteem is strange, reminding him to think about all he has done for her. So Wol recalls how he risked his life for her and later refused treasure, saying he only wanted her instead. Qian Wai is surprised to hear her say that his actions made her feel like she had become the protagonist of a story. She tells him not to feel anxious, as her heart feels the same way after he saved her life. The young woman then shows off the new earrings he gave her, a beautiful smile on her face. She asks if they suit her, looking at him with a happy and expectant expression. Qian Wai looks back at her with a gentle smile, clearly captivated by her appearance. He smoothly replies that he will be too entranced by her to even notice the scenery, earning a passing grade for his sweet words. Uncle Jang Gak looks on with a warm, rosy-cheeked smile, enjoying the young couple's interaction. The two of them continue their walk through the bustling streets of Sichuan, enjoying their first official outing. They stop to eat at a local food stall, continuing to get to know each other better. As they walk through the market, they continue to draw the attention of the local townspeople. Their date continues as the day progresses, with the Grand Tang clan estate visible in the distance. So Wol is glad he likes the food, but Qian Wai explains he is not picky because he grew up poorly fed. She feels a bit guilty hearing this, remembering his time living on fasting pills, but he tells her not to worry. As they walk, they notice a large and somewhat chaotic crowd gathered up ahead. They arrive in front of a large building where many people are waiting, making Qian Wai curious. He asks what is going on, and Tang Wol suddenly remembers that today is a special day. A group of men from the Tang clan are gathered outside the building, speaking amongst themselves. As Wol and Qian Wai approach, one of the men in the group turns and notices them. A cheerful young man greets Wol enthusiastically, saying he just heard the news of her return. Qian Wai looks at the stranger, silently wondering who this person is and how he knows Wol. Meanwhile, back at the main estate, a different conversation is taking place. A man named Tang Yujin, the head escort, asks Lord Tang Jin Qin about the rumors of a fiancé for Wol. The lord of the Tang clan calmly confirms that the rumors are indeed true. Yujin is surprised the lord would give up the position so easily, but Tang Jin Qian says the decision was not made lightly. He reveals he investigated Qian Hui's past, noting his volatile cultivation and his annihilation of the Red Sand faction at age 15. The lord states that while Qian Hui's record is ruthless, he believes the young man must be different in person. Tang Yujin disagrees, saying Qian Hui seemed just as ruthless when he saw him, which surprises the lord. However, Jang Qian is confident the boy's blade is not pointed at them, as he only kidnapped Wol to protect her. Yujin concludes that with the addition of the cure he provided, the entire Tang clan is indebted to him. The lord agrees, explaining that is why he offered Qian Wai anything he desired as a reward. He then reveals that the young man asked for nothing but to become part of their family, which led to the engagement. Tang Yujin is amazed by the story and how everything played out between the two. He finds the situation quite lovely and asks if Wol returns Qian Hui's feelings, which her father confirms. Yujin admits even he would fall for a man like that, which the lord finds amusing coming from a man with 4 concubines. The lord teases Yujin about being single for over 10 years, but the head escort simply states he has no interest. Amused, Yujin points out the lord's own devotion, but Tang Jin Qian says they have a more pressing matter to discuss. Before he can elaborate on this pressing matter, their conversation is interrupted. A subordinate arrives, announcing that the leader of the Dark Soul Squad wishes to see the patriarch. Both Tang Jin Qian and Tang Yujin turn their attention to the door, their expressions becoming serious. The scene shifts back to So Wall and Qian Wai, who are now being approached by the man who greeted them. The man apologizes profusely to So Wall for being away while she was in danger, expressing his relief that she is safe. He fusses over her, checking her face for injuries and asking if she has visited the medicine hall. He declares that if he had been there, he would have never let the attackers live, but So Wall calms him down. She explains that it is fine because young Master Qian already took care of all of them. At that moment, Qian Wai steps forward and formally introduces himself to the young man. So Wall's father, having arrived with another man, explains that Qian Wai is the sole reason So Wall returned safely. The young man introduces himself as Tang Qiang, the young patriarch, and thanks Qian Wai for saving his sister. Qian Wai's eyes widen slightly as he processes this new information about the man's identity. He recognizes Tang Qiang as So Wall's older brother, one of the people who died protecting her when the clan was destroyed in his past life. The young warrior now understands why the future So Wall was so obsessed with revenge, seeing the deep bond between the siblings. Tang Qiang praises Qian Wai's skills and suggests he rest well at the clan before returning home. So Wall tries to correct her brother's assumption, but he wonders if he said something wrong. Their father then steps in to clarify the situation they were in the middle of discussing. Tang Jinqian explains that Qian Wai is not a guest, but her Fanki and a future member of the Tang clan. Tang Qiang turns to look at Qian Wai, his expression frozen in complete shock. He stammers in disbelief, trying to comprehend that this stranger is now engaged to his little sister. Qian Wai greets his future brother-in-law with a confident smile, saying he looks forward to their future together. The young patriarch is completely overwhelmed by the sudden and very personal turn of events. He turns to his father for confirmation, and the Lord simply replies that he naturally gave his permission. Tang Qiang vehemently protests, refusing to accept a marriage arranged with someone they just met. Qian Wai chimes in that they know each other well, having lived together in a cave for a month after he kidnapped her. His blunt and misleading summary causes Tang Qiang to spiral while So Wall panics at the unnecessary comment. Her brother gets emotional, tearfully recalling how she used to wait for him to bring her candied fruits as a child. Mortified, So Wall reminds him she stopped doing that when she was 12, forcing him to clear his throat in embarrassment. Their father finally cuts in, saying that since they're all gathered, it is time to get to the main point. He decides the conversation should be held somewhere more private and leads the group inside a building. Once they are in a secure room, Lord Tang Jinqian prepares to share some critical information. He reveals they have obtained intelligence that the demonic cult was the mastermind behind the attack on his daughter. Both Qian Wai and Tang So Wall are visibly shocked by this revelation. Qian Wai is stunned, thinking this cannot be right, as the incident fizzled out with minor accomplices in his past life. The Lord explains that the Hao clan in Guangdong province willingly gave up the information to protect themselves. Furious, Tang Qiang demands they head to Guangdong immediately to uproot the demonic cult, and his father agrees. However, the Lord of the Tang clan pauses, adding one more condition to his plan. He orders So Wall and Qian Wai to remain at the Tang clan estate, a decision his daughter immediately questions. The Lord says that while clan principals demand revenge, he does not want them to push themselves so soon after the incident. He clarifies that he only called them to inform them that there was a mastermind behind the attack. Qian Wai agrees with So Wall, believing they should be the ones to handle their own matters of vengeance. The Lord replies that since they already punished the attackers, their duty is done, and this is now the clan's own retribution. So Wall grumbles that since Qian Wai was the one who nearly died, she should at least be allowed to tag along. Her father turns to her with a pleading and concerned look in his eyes, calling her name softly. He then admits that he simply does not have the courage to send her into danger again so soon. The young woman is left speechless, visibly moved by her father's heartfelt and honest plea. She finally gives in, telling her father that he is fighting dirty and that she cannot refuse his request. However, Qian Wai finds this troublesome, as he hoped to gain clues about the heavenly demon by confronting the cult. Sensing his disappointment, Tang So Wall asks if he is really just going to give up like this. He finds her resolve unexpected, but she admits that running away now would mean the end of her life as a martial artist. She wants to be a warrior who brings no shame to her clan, but she understands her father's feelings too well to be stubborn. Qian Wai listens to her words, a thoughtful expression on his face as he comes to a decision. He then taps her on the shoulder and says that it is easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. With a new plan in mind, the young warrior makes his move and proposes a different course of action. He then declares with a confident smile that from this moment on, he is kidnapping her to Guangdong province. Tang So Wall looks at him with wide-eyed surprise, caught completely off guard by his bold declaration. The scene shifts to the quiet, moonlit streets of the town as night falls. Meanwhile, in a quiet courtyard elsewhere, two shadowy figures wait for their targets to arrive. One of the figures slams a massive axe into the ground, clearly growing impatient with the long wait. A heavily bandaged man curses himself, realizing that he and his partner both fell asleep and lost track of time. He complains that he cannot stand sitting still and demands to know when the Tang clan will finally arrive. His partner tells him be patient, suggesting he pass the time by thinking of ways to turn the Tang clan into minced meat. The partner, a fierce-looking woman, adds that they need to stuff their stomachs with as much prey as possible. Later that night, under the light of the full moon, the Tang clan estate is quiet. While preparing to leave, So Wol remarks that her father should be passing through Zhongqing by now. Qian Wai agrees, noting that since the Lord left that morning, he should have already arrived there. With their target's location confirmed, Qian Wai says it is time for them to get going as well. The full moon shines brightly in the night sky, overseeing the events about to unfold. The two make their way to the Tang clan stables, where a lone guard stands watch. The guard, looking tired from the long night, lets out a massive yawn, completely unaware of their presence. Before he can even react, a dark figure appears from the shadows and silently strikes him down. The guard collapses to the ground, knocked out cold by Qian Hui's swift and precise attack. As So Wol nervously asks if this is okay, Qian tells her to blame him if anything goes wrong. Hearing his words, the young woman's nervous expression shifts to one of resolve. She tells him she does not like seeing him shoulder everything alone and promises to do her best to help. Qian Wai gives her a reassuring smile, thankful for her unwavering support. With a horse ready, So Wol prepares to ride out but then asks which one Qian Wai will be taking. To her absolute shock, Qian Wai bluntly admits that he does not know how to ride a horse. He tells So Wol to ride the horse while he sits behind her, prompting her to ask just who is kidnapping whom. Qian Wai explains that he never learned to ride because by the time he could afford a horse, he was fast enough to outrun one. Resigned, Tang So Wol tells him to hurry up and get on, and he quickly mounts the horse behind her. She becomes visibly flustered as he puts his arms around her to hold on, their bodies pressed close together. The young woman asks if this was his plan all along, but he cheekily replies, asking if that would be a problem. She calls him sneaky, but he retorts that she is one to talk and then asks if she would prefer to get off. The two ride off together under the moonlight, making their way toward Guangdong province. Meanwhile, Lord Tang Jin Qian and his warriors arrive at the demonic cult's suspected hudyet. Under the cover of darkness, they quietly approach the outer walls of the estate. A group of elite warriors known as the Dark Soul Unit assembles, ready to strike at their lord's command. A messenger from the Ha clan confirms that remnants of the demonic cult have been frequenting this location. The commander of the Dark Soul Unit reports that they have surrounded the area and are ready to storm the place on his order. Lord Tang Jin Qian dismisses the messenger, telling he understands the Ha clan's intentions and will thank them later. With the messenger gone, the lord of the Tang clan prepares to give the order to his own men. He asks the commander of the Dark Soul Unit about the journey, but his mind seems to be elsewhere. The lord laments the complexities of being a clan head, wishing he could just go in alone and wipe them all out. However, he knows it would look bad for a clan leader to pursue revenge out of personal feelings. But now that he is standing right before his daughter's attackers, he questions if any of that truly matters. The Dark Soul Unit's commander watches his lord, sensing the immense pressure he is under. He reassures Tang Jin Qian that they will maintain the encirclement to prevent any rumors from leaking out. The lord quietly thanks him for his understanding and loyalty, his resolve now hardened. The gate to the compound remains closed, but is about to be violently breached. With a powerful strike, the front gate is blown to smithereens, announcing the Tang clan's arrival. Dozens of demonic cult members rush out into the courtyard to face the intruders. The cult members, a motley crew of ruthless-looking fighters, stand ready for a bloody battle. Through the dust and smoke, a lone figure walks calmly into the compound to face them all. Lord Tang Jin Qian enters the courtyard, his eyes filled with a cold and unforgiving fury. The two demonic cult members from before are shocked to see the Poison King himself has come. The bandaged man panics, wondering why the lord would come alone without any of his followers. Tang Jin Qian declares that appearances do not matter, as they will all soon be nothing more than poison corpses. As he speaks, the bandaged man suddenly clutches his throat, feeling a sharp and burning pain. He realizes what is happening and furiously demands answers, knowing they are now trapped between two deadly choices. His female partner observes the scene with a cold detachment, noting that the lord is driven by personal feelings for his daughter. But Tang Jin Qian retorts that men who cannot manage their own lives have no right to worry about another's future. The woman admits he has a point, saying she is desperately trying to survive, unlike their original suicide mission. She states that she would rather not die from poison without accomplishing anything. With a furious battle cry, the demonic cult members charge forward, hoping to overwhelm the lone intruder. But as they attack, Tang Jin Qian releases a massive wave of his infamous poison Qi. The green, toxic energy spreads throughout the courtyard, instantly enveloping all of his enemies. The cult members are caught in the deadly poisonous cloud, their fates sealed by the wrath of the Poison King. In an instant, the poison transforms the cultists into grotesque, melting figures, their bodies decaying on the spot. As their bodies fall, it becomes clear that some of the cultists were using explosives in a last-ditch effort. One of the dying men manages to reveal a small, powerful explosive. Lord Tang Jin Qian realizes with alarm that his enemies have thunder bombs hidden in their robes. The bombs detonate in a massive, fiery explosion that rocks the entire compound. A thick cloud of smoke and dust fills the air, obscuring the aftermath of the blast. From a nearby rooftop, Lord Tang Jin Qian looks down at the destruction he has caused. He curses the demonic cult members for their crafty, suicidal tactics, realizing some may have escaped. Just as he predicted, two figures manage to flee the chaotic scene. The bandaged man and his female partner fight their way through the Tang clan's remaining forces. The Dark Soul unit members spot the two escapees and shout for their comrades to kill them. Despite their efforts, the two powerful cultists cut down the Tang clan warriors, blocking their path. The bandaged man worries they will not get another chance, but his partner tells him to focus on surviving for now. With her gaze fixed forward, she concentrates solely on their escape from the Poison King. The two run through a path of blood and fallen bodies, leaving the burning compound behind. They stop to catch their breath, shaken by the overwhelming power of the Tang clan's leader. The two look back, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and adrenaline from the close encounter. Suddenly, a mysterious figure cloaked in black leaps down from above, blocking their path. The figure moves with incredible speed, intercepting them before they can react. Qian Wai lands gracefully, flanked by Tang So Wol, remarking that he has arrived at just the right moment. The two cultists find their escape route blocked by the young couple, with Tang clan warriors closing in from behind. They stare down their new opponents, realizing their fight for survival is far from over. The bandaged man recognizes the green robes of the Tang clan, but is surprised to see a woman so young with them. He bursts into manic laughter, seeing it as a windfall that their original prey has fallen right into their lap. He excitedly pats his partner on the back, but she remains silent and focused on the new arrivals. The woman recognizes Tang So Wol and the bothersome swordsman who interfered with their plans before. She notes that So Wol came to settle the score herself, even against her father's wishes. She prepares for battle, stating that her opinion of the young woman becoming a true martial artist might change. However, she adds that this only matters if So Wol can survive the coming fight. Qian Wai recognizes the bandaged man as Dan Mook Sang, the Starving Ghost Axe, a master of the Transcendence realm in his past life. The bandaged man Dan Mook Sang stands ready, his imposing aura filling the air. Qian Wai notes that both opponents are currently at the early peak realm, putting him and So Wol at a disadvantage. However, with his red eyes glowing, he confidently believes that overcoming a wall of that level will not be a problem. A blood-red aura explodes from Qian Wai, creating an oppressive and murderous atmosphere. The two demonic cult members brace themselves as the intense, dark energy washes over them. The female cultist is stunned by his tremendous murderous aura, understanding how he defeated the other grunts so easily. Dan Mook Sang takes a step into the pool of blood, his excitement growing. He laughs with pure delight, finding the young man's power impressive and entertaining. Dan Mook Sang declares that Qian Wai's demonic energy is even darker than theirs and suggests they should join forces. However, Qian Wai flatly rejects the offer, stating that he is a son-in-law of the Tang clan and an orthodox martial artist with a fiancée. Dan Mook Sang laughs maniacally, mocking Qian Wai's claim of belonging to the orthodox faction. He sarcastically declares that if that is true, then he must be the leader of the Miram Alliance as he attacks. Without hesitation, Tang So Wol prepares to enter the fray, her poison arts activating around her arms. A massive cloud of her poison erupts as she and Qian Wai clash with the two powerful cultists. Dan Mook Sang is momentarily surprised by the potent poison mist, but does not let it slow his assault. He leaps through the toxic cloud, charging directly toward Qian Wai with his axes ready to strike. Qian Wai meets the attack head-on, his dark energy clashing violently against the Starving Ghost Axe's weapon. At the same time, the female cultist smashes her metal gauntlet into the ground, shattering the pavement with immense force. She launches herself from the crater, breaking through a wall to attack Qian Wai from another angle. The young warrior finds himself on the defensive, parrying a heavy blow from Dan Mook Sang's axe. With Qian Wai occupied, the woman rushes toward Tang So Wol, who is busy throwing poison needles from a distance. A sharp poison needle narrowly misses the female warrior's face, grazing her cheek as it flies past. She expertly uses her gauntlets to block the barrage of incoming projectiles, deflecting them with ease. Tang So Wol remains focused, preparing her next wave of poison attacks against her formidable opponent. The female cultist grimaces, realizing that her opponents are a far more troublesome combination than she expected. Just then, members of the Tang clan's Dark Soul unit finally arrive on the scene. The warriors are stunned to find Lady So Wol and young hero Qian already engaged in a fierce battle. They immediately offer their assistance, but Tang So Wol shouts at them to stay back and not get any closer. She warns them that her poison is not precise enough to spare them in such a chaotic group fight. Her order leaves the Dark Soul unit members frozen in place, unsure how to help without getting in the way. The intense 2-on-2 battle continues as the combatants maneuver for an advantage. Qian Wai spits out a broken poison needle that he had caught in his mouth during the exchange. A dark, ominous energy begins to flow from his blade as he prepares a more serious attack. He warns So Wol that her poison-repelling pro cannot withstand his arts, as he is poisonous inside and out. Elsewhere, the two cultists cough and choke from the poison mist, and the woman curses So Wol's powerful abilities. She notes that Qian Wai is a massive hindrance, constantly preventing them from targeting Tang So Wol directly. She decides they must eliminate the swordsman first, fearing the Poison King could arrive at any moment. Dan Mook Sang agrees, noting that while the swordsman only has first-class skills, he has annoyingly few openings. However, he smirks confidently, dismissing Qian Hui's murderous aura as pathetic and no real threat to him. Qian Wai recalls from his past life the specific reason why he remembers the Starving Ghost Axe so clearly. His Mad Wolf life-taking technique, which uses fear to paralyze opponents, is ineffective against fearless lunatics like Dan Mook Sang. Having formulated a plan, the two demonic cult members launch a coordinated attack, rushing forward simultaneously. A thick cloud of green poison mist courtesy of Tang So-wol completely envelops the battlefield. The female cultist channels her energy into her gauntlet, preparing to unleash a powerful blast. She punches the air, creating a powerful shockwave of wind pressure that pierces through the poison mist. Tang So-wol is shocked, having never expected her opponent to counter her poison screen with pure wind pressure. Qian Wai raises a massive earthen platform to intercept the incoming attack, shattering the ground around them. Seeing the scale of the destructive clash, Tang So-wol cries out her partner's name in alarm. Enveloped in his own dark aura, Qian Wai stands firm, his red eyes glowing with intense power. The battlefield erupts in a massive shockwave of red energy as the powerful techniques collide. The female cultist is caught in Qian Hui's dark aura, her movements restricted by the overwhelming pressure. However, her partner Dan Muksang shouts that such a technique doesn't work on him as he charges forward. A dark, sinister energy swirls around Qian Hui's blade as he prepares to meet the attack. He unleashes a powerful slash, his demonic sword clashing against the starving ghost axe. The force of their collision sends sparks flying, creating a powerful shockwave. Dan Muksang is visibly surprised by the sheer power behind the young man's strike. The impact throws them both back, shattering the ground beneath their feet. Dan Muksang wonders what is going on as Qian Wai relentlessly presses his attack. He is frustrated by the young warrior's incredible skill, who stays just out of reach while parrying his strikes. The cultist realizes his opponent's senses are on a completely different level, and he is being expertly outmaneuvered. With a furious roar, Dan Muksang pushes back with all his might, trying to create an opening. He manages to land a glancing blow, forcing Qian Wai to trade a wound for a better position. A shallow but clean cut appears across Qian Hui's chest from the axe's blade. Dan Muksang is shocked that after all that effort, the resulting wound was so shallow. Qian Wai now stands behind him, his sword held high and ready to deliver a decisive blow. He calmly tells his opponent that even without his aura, he is no match in raw skill, just like in their previous encounter. In one swift motion, Qian Wai brings his sword down, slicing through Dan Muksang's back. At the same time, the female cultist is finally dispatched by Tang So-wol's poison. With her dying breath, she curses Qian Wai for being an interfering bastard. Qian Wai's attack cuts deep, and the powerful cultist is bathed in a cloud of deadly poison. Dan Muksang's eyes bleed as the potent poison takes effect, his body convulsing in its final moments. Both of the demonic cult members collapse to the ground, defeated by the young duo. Looking at his fallen opponent, Qian Wai sarcastically comments on his rather direct self-introduction. Under the dark night sky, a shadowy figure observes the scene from a distance. The bodies of the two powerful demonic cult members lie still in a pool of their own blood. Tang So-wol rushes to Qian Wai's side, asking if he is alright after the intense battle. She fusses over his wound, but he reassures her that it is not fatal and that he took the hit intentionally. She scolds him for being so reckless, but he calmly promises her that such a mistake will not happen again. He starts to explain his technique, but she cuts him off by pinching his cheek, telling him he refuses to yield. She insists on treating his wound, ignoring his protests that he is fine. Suddenly, Tang So-wol leans in close to his chest, much to his surprise. Qian Wai is completely stunned, his mind going blank as he tries to process what is happening. He becomes flustered, asking what she is doing as a blush spreads across his face. The young woman then licks the blood from his wound, her expression completely serious. She explains that she applied a healing poison, reminding him that poison can also be used as medicine. So-wol then scolds him for his lack of embarrassment, asking how he can be so nonchalant about the situation. She points out that they are surrounded by people, but he just says it is simply medical treatment. As they bicker, a powerful and imposing figure shrouded in a green aura slowly approaches them. The voice of Tang Jin Qian cuts through the air, demanding an explanation for everything that has just happened. Both Qian Wai and Tang So-wol freeze in terror, caught red-handed by the one person they were trying to avoid. Even under the immense pressure of the Poison King's fury, Qian Wai cheekily addresses him as father-in-law. Tang Jin Qian's stern expression does not waver as he prepares to discipline the two for their reckless behavior. Both Qian Wai and Tang So-wol kneel before him, silently awaiting their punishment for disobeying his orders. The Lord reminds them that their actions cannot be easily overlooked, and he expects a full explanation. Qian Wai takes full responsibility, claiming he instigated the plan, but So-wol insists she came of her own free will. Her father says that if Qian Hui's claim is true, then he is even more disappointed in the young man's judgment. The young warrior quietly accepts the harsh but fair criticism from the man he hopes to call his father-in-law. He then sincerely apologizes for acting unilaterally and disregarding the Lord's intentions. However, he adds that So-wol is more precious to him than anything, and he will ensure her father's worries never come to pass. The young woman is visibly touched by his heartfelt and sincere declaration, her cheeks flushing slightly. Tang Jin Qian sighs, admitting that the young man certainly has a way with words. He tells them that for now, they will remain in Guangdong for a few more days to deal with some leftover matters. The Lord reveals that they captured a demonic cult member alive and intend to interrogate him for information. He notes that while the leaders are dead, any information they can get is better than nothing at all. Qian Hui's eyes narrow as he realizes the opportunity this presents for his own goals. He once again addresses Tang Jin Qian as father-in-law, who resignedly asks what he wants this time. The young warrior confidently states that he believes his presence will be necessary for the interrogation. Both Tang Jinqian and So Wol are confused by his strange and confident assertion. Later that night, the Tang clan prepares for the interrogation of their high-value prisoner. They gather at a secure and isolated building within the compound to begin the process. A pair of large, reinforced doors stands between them and the captured demonic cult member. Inside, a dark and narrow staircase leads down into a heavily guarded underground chamber. An old man with white hair is bound and kneeling on the floor, flanked by two of the Tang clan's strongest warriors. The prisoner looks up with a defiant and crazed expression, his face contorted in a sinister grin. When Qian Wai arrives, the Lord informs him that he was right, normal interrogation methods were completely ineffective. He explains that a restriction has been placed on every member of the demonic cult, preventing them from talking. Qian Wai simply nods, confirming that he already knew about this and is prepared to deal with it. The Lord tells him to do as he wishes, willing to see if the young man can truly break the cult's mental seal. Qian Wai approaches the prisoner and places his fingers on the man's forehead, beginning the delicate process. He recalls that the demonic sex restriction methods fall outside the norms of the Central Plains. It is a complex combination of a venomous insect that inflicts pain and a suggestion that engraves commands into the mind. To undo the knot, he must force his internal energy through the prisoner's acupoints and 3 dantians in a specific sequence. As he channels his energy, the prisoner's body convulses violently, and blood begins to pour from his eyes, nose, and ears. After a few tense moments, Qian Wai announces that the restriction has been successfully broken. He warns that they only have about 15 minutes to interrogate him before he either dies or becomes an idiot. Lord Tang Jinqian wastes no time and immediately begins the interrogation, demanding the prisoner's name and rank. The now broken man reveals his name as Yeo Noong Hak, the Darkhound leader of the Divine Sect. The Lord is shocked that it worked, admitting that even his truth poisons had no effect on the unit leader. He then asks the crucial question, demanding to know why the demonic sect targeted the Tang clan and So Wol. Yeo Noong Hak weakly replies that they were seen as a potential obstacle to a certain person's grand scheme. The Lord asks if the order came from the demon sect leader, but Yeo Noong Hak says Dan Muk, Sang, and Samasu Ryan acted alone. Qian Wai listens intently, his expression serious as he processes the new information about the cult's internal movements. Tang Jinqian presses further, asking what grand scheme the prisoner was referring to. With a crazed and bloodied smile, Yeo Noong Hak begins to reveal the ultimate goal of his master. He declares that the grand scheme is the complete destruction of the Murim, creating a world stained with blood and revenge. Lord Tang Jian sighs in frustration, remarking on the unending madness of the demon sect. Qian Hui's focus shifts, knowing there is another crucial piece of information he needs to ask about. He now remembers the woman's full title from his past life, the ghost-eyed witch, Samasu Ryan. He realizes the heavenly demon is moving with the same goal, but the current demon sect has subtle differences from his memories. The young warrior asks his father-in-law for permission to ask the prisoner just one question. With a nod from the Lord, Qian Wai steps forward, his hand subtly gesturing for So Wol to stay back. He asks the prisoner what realm the demon sect leader has currently reached. Yeo Noong Hak reveals that the cult leader has reached the legendary supreme demon boundary. Qian Hui's expression becomes grim as he hears this confirmation of his worst fears. He understands that the supreme demon boundary is another name for the realm of harmony. The weight of this knowledge hangs heavy in the air as the full moon shines over Guangdong province. As the time limit runs out, blood drips from the now silent prisoner's mouth onto the floor. Yeo Noong Hak slumps forward, his life ending as a consequence of having his restriction broken. Lord Tang Jinqian confirms that the prisoner has stopped breathing, but is glad they got as much information as they did. Qian Wai then asks the Lord what he plans to do about the demon sect, hoping he will take action. The Lord explains that since the attack was officially a rogue action, he lacks the pretext to strike the entire sect. Qian Wai listens quietly, understanding the political limitations the Tang clan now faces. The two masters stand in silence for a moment, contemplating their next move against the growing threat. Lord Tang Jinqian summons one of his men, a certain Captain Yim. With a subtle nod, he gives a silent order to the captain, who understands immediately. Captain Yim acknowledges the command with a silent and determined expression. He bows to the Lord before turning to leave the room to carry out his new mission. The captain quickly departs, leaving the Lord and the young warrior to continue their private discussion. The Lord then turns back to Qian Wai, stating he has one final question he needs answered. He asks how the young man knew about the demon sex restriction, a secret unknown even to their finest intelligence network. Qian Wai tries to deflect with a vague answer, but the Lord insists that will not suffice this time. Tang Jinqian clarifies that while he does not doubt him, an outsider would easily suspect a connection to the demon sect. He explains that since he must report this to the Murim Alliance, he needs to know the exact reason to avoid misunderstandings. Qian Wai looks down, realizing that the time for secrets and evasions has finally come to an end. He never thought he would have to tell anyone his story, believing no one would ever believe something so absurd. However, with the threat of the demon sect looming, he knows he must alert everyone as soon as possible. He agrees to tell the truth, but only if the Lord agrees to believe every word he says unconditionally. After a moment of hesitation, Lord Tang Jinqian agrees to his terms, preparing himself for the unbelievable story. Qian Wai takes a deep breath, steeling himself to reveal the greatest secret of his new life. He then begins to speak, ready to tell the lord of the Tang clan everything about his regression from the future. After revealing everything about his regression, Qian Wai stands before a silent Tang Jin, Qian. The lord stares at him with a calm, unreadable expression, processing the incredible story he just heard. After a long moment of silence, Tang Jin Qian finally speaks, simply saying the young hero's name. Qian Wai suddenly feels his throat go dry, his heart pounding in his chest. His entire body begins to tremble as a sudden, inexplicable sense of dread washes over him. He looks up in confusion, wondering why he is suddenly feeling so anxious and terrified. Lord Tang Jin Qian rushes over in concern, asking what has come over him all of a sudden. Qian Wai struggles to speak, his body shaking and his mind reeling from the overwhelming fear. He tries to form words, wanting to explain his regression, but his mouth refuses to cooperate. The young warrior realizes with horror that something is blocking him at a subconscious level, preventing him from speaking. His eyes widen as he understands the terrible implication of his sudden inability to speak the truth. He realizes that the most likely possibility is that a powerful restriction has been placed upon him. He knows that such a restriction is a type of sorcery used to manipulate a person's mind at will. Qian Wai panics, wondering who could have placed such a powerful and undetectable restriction on him. The lord grabs him by the shoulders, trying to snap him out of his panicked state and asking if he is in his right mind. Coming back to his senses, Qian Wai apologizes and says the words just would not come out easily. He then promises that whatever his past entails, it will never bring harm to the Tang clan or to So Wol. Tang Jin Qian seems to understand and tells him to go rest, stating he has done well for the day. As he leaves, Qian Hai's mind races, consumed by the new and terrifying problem he now faces. The camera pans over the Tang clan's estate at night, where the young warrior contemplates his fate. Alone in his room, Qian Wai sits in quiet contemplation, trying to make sense of what just happened. He laments that as if he did not have enough to worry about, an unimaginable new problem has appeared. He thoroughly examined his own body and Kai but could not find any trace of an anomaly or restriction. He presumes the restriction prevents him from speaking about his regression and was placed on him by a being beyond human. The young man realizes that whoever has the authority to send a human back in time is likely responsible. He wonders if this restriction is his karma, a price he must pay for defying heavenly laws to gain a second chance. A single tear escapes his eye as he grapples with the weight of his inescapable fate. He is suddenly jolted from his deep thoughts by the sound of his door creaking open. Tang So Wol quietly enters his room, her expression gentle and her movements careful not to disturb him. She asks if he has a moment to talk before he goes to sleep for the night. He is startled by her sudden appearance, but she teases him for being afraid of so many things despite his skills. She explains that she came to find him because she felt lonely after he went straight to his room without greeting her. Her playful and somewhat possessive reasoning leaves Qian Wai at a loss for words. He apologizes, explaining that his mind was too cluttered to think straight after the interrogation. She asks if the interrogation went poorly, but he says it went well, though it is hard to explain why. So Wol looks at him with concern, asking if he is really not going to tell her what is bothering him. He reassures her that it is not a matter of trust, but simply something she cannot help with right now. The young warrior gives her a small, reassuring smile, trying to ease her worries about his state of mind. Tang So Wol looks at him for a long moment, sensing that there is more to the story than he is letting on. She then gently takes his arm, getting his attention before he can dismiss her concerns. Seeing his distress, Tang So Wol moves closer to Qian Wai on his bed, her gaze soft and intimate. She gently reaches out and caresses his cheek, trying to understand what is troubling him so deeply. She finds it tragic that her poison can heal his chest wound, but there is no poison that can cure the anxiety in his heart. The young woman finds it hilarious that for all the power of her poisoned spirit constitution, she is helpless to ease his turmoil. As she speaks, Qian Wai is reminded of the more mature version of So Wol he knew in his previous life. The combination of the memory and her current proximity causes the young warrior's cheeks to flush. Realizing that she is comforting him when it should be the other way around, he pulls her into a gentle hug. He tells her not to worry, admitting that what he needs is her, and that just seeing her makes him feel like he can manage. She teases him about becoming more expressive since their engagement, but he retorts that she was the one who jumped into his lap. Tang So Wol gives him a sly and alluring smile, her playful confidence returning in full. She then leans in even closer, her face just inches from his as she prepares to say something. A flustered Qian Wai asks if she has been drinking, commenting on how unusually close she is. Ignoring his question, the young woman calls his name, her tone shifting from playful to serious. She then asks him a shockingly perceptive question, wondering if he is looking at another woman through her. Qian Wai is left completely stunned and speechless, caught off guard by her incredible intuition.